Welcome everyone, this is First Sight Analysis again, with the 9th video in our channel. I originally had some really cool plans with some Tchaikovsky and some Bruckner and some other stuff that I'll get to at some point anyway. But as I was getting ready for that, about a month ago, viewer ComposerCaleb found one essay. He's not only a composer, he's also a really fine pianist. And he found one essay and made the first ever viewer request for First Sight Analysis. So this is a really exciting occasion. Thanks, ComposerCaleb. And his idea is Beethoven's Opus 111, Sonata in C minor, which is in fact famous for the harmonic trickery in that passage in the introduction. So of course that takes precedence, and here we are with the first ever viewer request analysis. I actually analyzed the full first page of a sonata, and that video is available. You can watch the whole analysis. But this video today focuses on the particular passage that's most interesting from the harmonic point of view, and the reason I assumed that Caleb made the request for this piece. So either way, you can watch the full analysis, link in the description or on the screen right now, or stay here and watch the most meaty couple of measures. Okay, 465 for now. We'll come back to this. Okay, it became major. That G flat became G natural. And that actually helps because this is now a dominant chord pointing to A flat. And if it resolves there, then we're on firmer ground again. And it did. So A flat resolved in that E flat chord. What's up next? Okay, this is not an uncommon move. This is a major triad becoming a diminished chord, a semitone up. And that can happen in several ways. If a major triad is 1, then this would be an emphasis to 2. But it can also be that the major triad is 5, and in that case, this is an emphasis to 6, kind of on our way to a deceptive cadence. And then, probably the most common way this happens is when the major triad is 4, and then we're approaching 5 through that 7 of 5. In any of the three cases, we would be approaching a B flat, which is the resolution of that 7 chord built on A. And what we get is a second inversion E flat chord. Not really a surprise, because again, this is a 164. This is a stand-in for the chord of B flat as dominant. So it actually helps us decide which of the three cases this is. It's a 4 going through a 7 of 5 onto 5, only that that resolution is delayed through the 164. Let me actually mark this as a delayed resolution, and we're on our way to a B flat chord as dominant. So let's see. This is not a B flat chord, but check this out. This is the C flat, the note right above the B flat, and then there's that A natural, the note right below the B flat. So this is an augmented 6th chord, the German chord, still pointing to the B flat as dominant. So the resolution was delayed before, and now it kind of gets compounded. That delay gets compounded. We're creating even more attraction to that dominant through the augmented 6th. B flat is still refusing to show up. Beethoven is now redoubling that emphasis onto it, because this is the same A diminished chord, only in first inversion, but that's the same chord that started the whole pointing towards that B flat. So the emphasis is redoubling now, and there's still a chance that we get that B flat. But we're denied. He resolved that onto D flat. Okay, so we're certainly out of a sphere of B flat as a dominant, so out of a sphere of E flat. So let's recap there. There was the 7 of 5 that was compounded by the German and then redoubled with another 7 of 5. And then here, that diminished chord, which was written originally as an A diminished chord, was reread as the diminished chord that resolves on D flat, so the diminished chord of C. As we've seen several times, the diminished chord is a fully symmetrical chord, so the same notes can be 4 different diminished chords. So, using that enharmonicism, as it's called, we modulated here to D flat. I actually kept thinking a little more about this, because once you hit a German chord, or an augmented 6th chord in general, like this German, then dominant should really be the only way forward. Either directly like that or through 164. In other words, in our approach to the dominant, that German chord is as close as we can get to the dominant. And it's closer than the 7 of 5. So we're moving away, we're moving back to the 7 of 5. And it would be one thing if the music as a whole was an exact repeat, then sure, we're backtracking and we're going to resume the same motion. But in this case, we have an independent progression of that German moving to a 7 of 5. And that is really not moving away from the dominant. It's moving backwards. It's what's called a regression. So, and of course, that it doesn't mean, and none of these things ever means anything like saying that Beethoven is not allowed to do that. Of course not. But it does mean that once Beethoven does do that, move away from the German into a 7 of 5, the ear understands, and in fact this is the point where the ear understands we are no longer approaching that dominant. Because if we were, we would be inching closer, not moving away from it. So the ear understands we're no longer going to be flat as dominant. We're no longer in E flat. What does the ear understand? Then, well, that's the other basic fact of chromatic harmony that I think to the last video, all of our videos have featured this amazing fact, which is that the German, in this case we have C flat German with that dissonance pointing out to the B flat. That chord is also, it's the same key, same pitches, everything as a normal dominant chord where the dissonance moves in. So in this case that would be the dominant chord built on C flat or on B if you want, and that's the dominant of F flat or E, and that dominant of E or B or F flat has a deceptive cadence onto D flat, and we can mediate that deceptive cadence through the 7 of that D flat, and that's what we have here. So we have that what was approach was get to as a German chord reinterpreted as a normal 5 chord on which we're going to mediate a deceptive cadence onto D flat. Except that it was resolved onto major, so as we saw before in the very first phrase, the diminished chord would resolve into minor if it was 7. When it resolves onto major, it sets up that resolution chord as the dominant, so this is actually 7 of 5 in G flat, resolving to 5. Something is coming up with that long beam, but okay, let's see what happened here. So that D flat major triad became a D diminished 7th. So that's the same move that we saw before, the one with the 3 possibilities when a major triad becomes a diminished chord. So we'll see which of the 3 it is in this case, but in any case we're expecting E flat as a resolution of that D diminished chord. So nothing much happened there harmonically. This is the same chord, but of course it's reloading on the lower register. We're still waiting for which resolution exactly we get to that D diminished. And the answer is another 6/4 chord. This is A flat 6/4. So just as before, this works as a delay of what is an emphasis to a dominant. So that D7 diminished chord was a 7 of 5 coming after a 4, and the resolution is delayed by that cadential chord, the 1/6/4. So that's what happens, and this sets up the key to be A flat by implying that we're going to its dominant. But now that implication too is evaded. This is not the chord of E flat, which would be the dominant, but rather E natural diminished with a 7th. In principle, that would be an emphasis to F, which in A flat would be 6. So we're on our way to deceptive cadence onto 6, not coming from 5, but from 1/6/4. We'll see what happens, whether that resolves or not. Oh, well, this is cool. The F itself was delayed by a 6/4 chord. So that F was taken to be a dominant, and then the resolution to it is delayed by the 1/6/4. In other words, what was a 7 of 6 in A flat was taken to be a 7 of 5 in B flat. And then that emphasis to the dominant is delayed by the cadential 164. And we're out of the sphere of A flat. That means that the whole implication around E flat as dominant of A flat has been fully evaded. Okay, interesting. We reached a chord that's staccato and we reached a forte. So the texture is changing. We're clearly approaching some real structural point in the piece. Harmonically, what's happened is that we get another chord of E diminished, this time in first inversion, but still pointing to that F as dominant. So that emphasis to the dominant in B flat has been redoubled. And look at that, we actually have a resolution here. This is the chord of F. Of course, it's not F major, which is what we were expecting since it was emphasized as a dominant in B flat. Instead, it's F minor, so we're out of the sphere of B flat, where we were for the last couple of chords. So in B flat, there was 7 of 5, delayed by a 164, redoubled by another 7 of 5, and then that 7 of 5 was taken to be a 7 just in F. That resolves to F minor, and this is where we are. And then what happens next is, well, the bass goes down an octave, but that's still an A flat, but the right hand has the F sharp. So what I'm looking at here is two notes that are pointing to G, each by semitone. So it would be an augmented sixth chord if they do go, in fact, to G. And they do. So yeah, this is one of the augmented sixth chords. In addition to the F sharp and the A flat, it has just a tonic. So it makes it the Italian augmented sixth chord. And that G chord that comes after the Italian, since it resolves an Italian chord, it's clearly understood as a dominant. And it's a dominant of the key of C minor, the key of the sonata. So this would be the harmonic goal of the whole passage. And not only that, it's also the first dominant that we actually get to. All those other hints and emphasis to different dominants throughout this last line were delayed, compounded, redoubled, evaded, always avoiding the dominant. So it's kind of tonal vagrancy as we've seen in other videos, but one step removed. It's not that we're reaching dominants and avoiding tonics. It's that we haven't even reached the dominant. And one other interesting thing is that in other videos we've seen the bass going down chromatically. But in this case we have a bass that goes up chromatically. Ever since that E, we went up by semitone all the way up to the next E and then even on to the F. That's where it breaks, because then the F goes to G by whole tone. But we have more than an octave of chromatic ascent underneath this whole evasion of dominance until we reach the dominant of the actual key of the sonata. And that chromatic bass is also part of what happens at that interesting moment, that weird move into 4/6/5. And I think I'm going to have a deeper look at that move and maybe make another video on it. But clearly part of what happens is that the F goes through the G flat onto that G natural where a normal progression starts. So stay tuned for that. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff about that move between B flat 6/4 and D flat 6/5. So I'll see you there. For now, this was the analysis of the introduction of Opus 111 by Beethoven. Thank you so much. Subscribe to the channel, hit like, share the video, you know all the rest. Bye bye.